So big news this morning on Cadbury. It's set out its stall for defence against Kraft. Well, our M&A reporter, Poppy Trowbridge, is here to explain us all. Now, Poppy, they said they put out this defence, and they've come up with guns blazing again.
They have. I mean, they've reiterated that the offer is derisory, but they've gone a little further. They've called Kraft an unattractive business model with a poor track record, an unfocused conglomerate, with significant exposure to lower growth categories. So they're really going on the attack here.
And you were telling me before this breaking news that they had to give something to shareholders. It's all right and well to attack the other company, but in terms of dividends, did we hear anything like
They had to pull something out of the hat. They had to have something extra that they hadn't already promised to do. So saying that you're ahead of restructuring plan, saying that you're going to improve your margins. We've heard all that for months and months. And today they reiterated that the 2010 dividend growth will be up 10%. Is that what you were expecting, Jon?
Yeah, no, I think overall the figures were a crackerjack set of figures, but I think the company had obviously been telling the investment community the figures would be reasonably good. So in that context, probably not too many surprises there. Obviously, they've announced that the dividend will be up 10% this year. That's probably slightly positive, although we had leaks probably yesterday already saying a substantial increase in the dividend. Is 10% enough? You know, maybe not. So, you know, net, a good crackerjack set of figures, but does it really change anything too much this morning in the overall case? I'm not so sure.
Jon Cox, of course, head of food and beverages research at Kepler Capital. Now, you were saying that what we heard from Buffett wasn't going to sink the deal, but why this opposition from Warren Buffett?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a sort of like a good cop, bad cop going on there, with no disrespect to the sage, as it were. I think he's basically, you know, helping Irene Rosenfeld at Kraft by saying, look, we don't want to give you a blank check. We certainly want the deal to go ahead, but we just don't want to give you a blank check. So I think he's still in favour of a deal, just doesn't want Irene to overpay.
So actually he's helping her in a way, make her, he's got her back from her shareholders who are worried that she'll be paying too much.
Yeah, no,
like
yeah, no. I think that's what will happen. I still tend to think basically there'll be a little bit more increase coming from Kraft. They will then go and talk to Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett will agree. The deal will get done.
Now, I know, Poppy, you've been covering the story, and you were telling me, of course, that because Nestle dropped out, that also changes the stake completely of who can come in. Did it have any indication of them wanting to actually become one with someone else in Kraft?
There was no hint of that in today's statement. And the reason that Nestle dropping out was such a definitive moment was because Nestle was seen as a company with the money already to do the deal and with a very logical parsing up plan for each of the businesses. And now we know that there are two people who are still interested, that's Ferrero and Hershey, but they haven't actually submitted any kind of offer, and you really need to put it in black and white. And that's exactly what this next week will be about. When do you expect to see some rivals to Kraft?
Yeah, no, I would hope any day, because the longer people leave it, it just becomes Kraft against Cadbury. You know, unless Ferrero and Hershey get involved, then it's really about Cadbury fighting for survival on its own.
Don't Ferrero and Hershey have to wait until the 19th, the final day for Kraft to up its offer? Don't they need to wait for that deadline?
Yeah, I think they'll probably wait a couple of days. I must admit, I still have concerns about the financing. I'm not sure Kraft and Ferrero combined can get the money together. Now, it's interesting you talk about Nestle and Nestle pulling out. Interesting, Nestle didn't deny that potentially after a deal is struck, it might be interested in some of the assets. So Nestle is still hovering somewhere in the background. It said, look, we're not interested in the bidding, but maybe something afterwards we could take part. So maybe they could come and help a Ferrero-Hershey deal. But I think most likely it still seems to be Kraft against Cadbury, and I think they will go right to the wire.
But Jon, why would, for example, Cadbury be more interested in getting with Hershey or with Ferrero rather than Kraft?
Yeah, I think there's probably cultural similarities between the two companies in terms of maybe, you know, looking after the workers. Hershey has its sort of like a social responsibility. Cadbury has a similar thing. Ferrero is a family-owned company. And to be perfectly honest, probably the existing management team at Cadbury would keep their jobs if there was some sort of tie-up with Hershey or Ferrero. That probably wouldn't be the case with Kraft. There's a lot of antagonism going on between the Kraft management and the Cadbury management. It's impossible to see the Cadbury management team staying on board if Kraft takes them over.
I'm looking at what Cadbury had to say about their performance being well ahead of schedule. You know, they're going to continue to focus on margins next year. It's really more of the same, isn't it? And, I mean, last year in 2009, they raised their full-year dividend by, I think it was about 6%.
Yeah.
They're doing it again.
Yeah.
Is that consistency what Cadbury shareholders want.
Yeah.
Does that make them confident, or do they need something more spectacular?
No, I think, if they can deliver what they're talking about, then fine. I must admit, I'm a little bit concerned about 2010. Higher cocoa prices, higher sugar prices. It's going to be another year of value in Europe. They've had a crackerjack set of figures this year, make it very tough comparables for 2010. But if Cadbury can go on as they are, why would shareholders take the existing deal on the table? Kraft really needs to pony up a bit more, I think.
Now, John, before we ask you actually what price you would be looking at, has there been any indication of what price Cadbury would be happy? Have they indicated that actually, well, at a certain price, yeah, they're up for sale for Kraft as well?
Well, you can never do that if you're hoping to have a bidding war, but remember when this story first broke, we were talking 900 pence, and everyone's forgotten that number. We're now talking between 800 and 830. 850 seems high, so that does show you what's happened over the last 4 months with the Kraft offer, the Kraft share price. In fact.
No, totally. I think there's been a total change. When the thing first broke, people were talking about like 14 times EV/EBITDA for 2009. Obviously, Cadbury's come out this morning saying that this is 12 times. Look at historically, it's between 14 and 18. It's totally shifted. Nestle dropping out has totally changed the dynamics, I think, of the race. Personally, I think somewhere around £8.25 will be enough to get it done. I think a lot of the long-onlys, some of the long-term fund managers realise Cadbury stock is not going to be at £8.25 if it was an independent business. That's not going to happen for a couple of years.
So if you're Cadbury management and you get an offer at £8.25, how do you justify the sudden cultural fit?
Well, I think they've been sort of like dancing around a little bit. They've been talking about, analysts talking about over £8. I think that is the line in the sand, and then it's a matter about how much further they can push above that £8, I think.
John, were you disappointed? I mean, 10% is the dividend that they're offering. Were you hoping for more?
The leak came out yesterday. It's the usual bits of rumours, and so as a result, 10% is great, but it's not fantastic. If they probably come out with this statement a week ago or a couple of months ago, everybody going, "This is fantastic! What a fantastic company! You need to be buying the stock." A lot of leaks. Cadbury have been really, telling people things are going to be good. So overall, net, no big surprises in those figures today.
So you have a hold on Cadbury. What's going to make you change that?
Yeah, I think, if there was a big sell-off, I think Cadbury will remain in play. I think that's the point. I think as a standalone business, it's probably worth about £7 per share. I think that's probably not too unusual. If there's a big sell-off, I think Cadbury will still remain in play. I think somebody else could potentially come in. I've always thought about, what about Pepsi-Cola, or Pepsi coming in as a dark horse, snacks, confectionery, maybe somebody else like that. So I'll remain hold for the time being. We'll see, what happens in the next couple of days.
All right, John, Poppy, thank you so much. Of course, we'll, I'm sure, have this conversation many times before this is all over. Jon Cox, our analyst at Kepler Capital.